The blood of the young alien students ran cold as they entered the lecture hall, some with trembling legs and erratic breaths, dreading the harrowing lesson they could not evade or ignore, the recounting of human battle tactics at the Battle of Kepler 22b. Rigel, a purple-skinned Wadi cadet, rushed through the door on shaking feet, sliding into his usual seat next to his friend Zarthax. Their grizzled instructor, Commander Zorax, wasted no time, firing up the room's massive holographic display. It flickered to life, revealing the starry Zeta Quadrant. Listen up. Today we cover the day the humans unleashed unmitigated hell at Kepler 22b, the day their devious schemes and psychological mind games nearly brought our glorious empire to ruin, Zorax boomed, pacing the stage with his metal leg clanking. I heard those hairless apes pulled off the impossible in that fight, Rigel whispered to Zarthax, his voice quivering, like sending a lone ship to wipe out an armada. My family still tells stories, Zarthax replied, nodding. Humans armed with nothing but rocks and harsh language, decimating Wadi warships, entire clans fleeing planets out of pure terror. Zorax slammed a scaly fist on his lectern. You think you know this tale? You've heard nothing. Only now in this room will you learn the true depths of human cunning and insanity, the unspeakable acts committed at Kepler 22b. Rigel gulped, sinking into his chair. He'd heard snippets from his great-grandfather, a battle-scarred survivor. The elder Wadi often woke screaming, clawing at invisible human soldiers in the night. What really happened at that cursed binary star? Rigel wondered. Would these cadets ever see humans the same again after today? The tension in the hall was palpable, a sense of dread anticipation. Zorax leaned over his lectern, his one good eye burning into the cadets. The Battle of Kepler 22b was more than just a turning point in the war. It ripped open the galaxy's perception of humans. It showed the unfathomable levels of deception and psychological manipulation they would employ. Tactics that made even the most ruthless Wadi commanders look like mewling larvae. Rigel and the other cadets leaned forward, hanging on every word. They had to know what the humans did, the grisly details of that fateful battle, even if it haunted them to their graves. The holodisplay zoomed in on the infamous binary star system as Zorax prepared to unravel a story that would shake the cadets to their very cores. A story of human guile, audacity, and sheer bloody-mindedness that the galaxy would never forget. The holographic display flickers, zooming in on the Wadi flagship's hangar bay as the human diplomatic vessel docks. Rigel stares intently, his heart pounding. What were the humans planning? Admiral Zorgax himself greeted the delegation, Zorax says, his voice low and ominous. The humans presented their gift with great ceremony, claiming it was a priceless relic from their homeworld. The display shows a group of humans in formal attire, carrying an ornate gilded box. They bow respectfully to the towering Wadi admiral. Did the admiral accept the gift? Zarthax asks, leaning forward in his seat. Zorax nods grimly. He did. The humans insisted he open it in front of his senior officers as a sign of goodwill between our empires. Rigel frowns. But it wasn't a gesture of goodwill, was it? Far from it, Zorax says, his cybernetic eye glinting. As Admiral Zorgax lifted the lid, the box began to emit a strange, pulsing light. The humans stepped back, donning protective goggles. The hologram shows the Wadi officers crowding around the box, their faces bathed in an eerie glow. Suddenly, they recoil, clutching their eyes and screaming in agony. The box contained a powerful disorienting strobe light, Zorax explains, his voice dripping with disdain. It blinded and incapacitated the Wadi leadership in seconds. Rigel's mouth falls open. They used a cheap trick to disable the Admiral and his staff? Her cowardly tactic, Zarthax spits, his scales flushing with anger. Zorax raises a clawed finger. Cowardly but effective. With the fleet's command structure crippled, the humans had already won half the battle. The display shows the human delegation swiftly subduing the disoriented Wadi, locking them in their own brig. Rigel shakes his head in disbelief. But surely the rest of the fleet would have realized something was wrong, Zarthax asks, his brow furrowed. Oh, they did, Zorax says, his lips curling into a sneer. But the humans had another devious plan in motion, one that would strike fear into the hearts of even the bravest Wadi warriors. The cadets exchange uneasy glances, bracing themselves for the next revelation in this dark tale of human cunning and deceit. The holographic display pulses ominously, hinting at the horrors yet to come. Rigel's question hangs in the air, as the cadets murmur amongst themselves, speculating on the true nature of the human's supposed weapon. Commander Zorax lets the tension build for a moment before continuing his tale. The Wadi fleet, faced with the prospect of an unstoppable human weapon, found themselves in a precarious position, Zorax explains, his voice low and measured. With their flagship disabled and their admiral held hostage, they were forced to consider the unthinkable: surrender. Zarthax shakes his head in disbelief. But the Wadi had never surrendered before. They were the most feared military power in the galaxy. Zorax nods, a grim smile playing on his lips. And that, cadet, is precisely what made the humans' bluff so effective. The Wadi were so confident in their own superiority. They couldn't fathom the idea of a species like the humans possessing a weapon capable of bringing them to their knees. The holographic display shifts, showing the Wadi fleet in disarray, their ships drifting aimlessly as they await further instructions from their crippled flagship. Powell and his team knew they had to act fast, Zorax continues, his cybernetic eye glinting in the dim light of the lecture hall. They had the admiral, but they needed to convince the rest of the fleet to stand down, so they devised a plan to broadcast a message that would strike fear into the hearts of even the most battle-hardened Wadi warriors. Rigel leans forward, his eyes wide with anticipation. What did they do, sir? Zorax's lips curl into a smirk. They used the Admiral's own command codes to access the fleet's communication network. Then, with the Admiral as their unwilling spokesman, they broadcast a chilling ultimatum. The holographic display flickers, and the image of Admiral Zorgax appears, his once proud figure slumped in defeat, with Captain Powell standing menacingly behind him. "Soldiers of the Wadi Empire," the Admiral begins, his voice trembling. "I, Admiral Zorgax, hereby order you to stand down and surrender your ships to the United Terran Federation. Failure to comply will result in the immediate activation of the humans' new weapon, which has already crippled our flagship and will undoubtedly lead to the destruction of our entire fleet." The cadets watch in stunned silence as the message plays out, the weight of the Admiral's words sinking in. "But surely the Wadi didn't believe it, right?" Zarthax asks, his voice barely above a whisper. "They must have known it was a trick." Zorax shakes his head. "You underestimate the power of fear, cadet. The Wadi, for all their bravado and military might, were not immune to the terror of the unknown, and the humans, with their cunning and audacity, had planted a seed of doubt that quickly took root in the minds of the Wadi fleet. The holographic display shows the Wadi ships, one by one, powering down their weapons and shields, as the message from their captured admiral echoes through their comm systems. "And just like that," Zorax says, his voice tinged with a mix of admiration and bitterness, "the mighty Wadi fleet, the scourge of the galaxy, surrendered to a handful of humans and their imaginary weapon." Rigel and Zarthax exchange glances, their minds reeling from the implications of the story. The humans, it seemed, were far more dangerous than anyone had ever imagined. "But, sir," Rigel ventures, his voice trembling slightly, "what happened next? Did the humans really have a weapon that could disable any ship in the galaxy?" Zorax's cybernetic eye flashes, and he leans forward, his voice dropping to a whisper. "That, cadet, is a question that has haunted the galaxy ever since the Battle of Kepler 22b. Some say the humans were bluffing, that they simply outsmarted the Wadi with their cunning and guile. Others believe that the weapon was real, and that the humans have been keeping it hidden, waiting for the right moment to unleash its power upon the unsuspecting galaxy." The cadets sit in silence, their minds racing with the possibilities. The humans, it seemed, were a force to be reckoned with, and the galaxy would never be the same again. Zorax turns to the cadets, his expression grave. With the Wadi fleet in chaos, Powell knew he had to act fast. He ordered his team to send out a series of conflicting orders, each seemingly coming from a different Wadi commander. The holographic display shows a flurry of messages, each contradicting the last. "Stand down," one reads, followed by "All ships attack the flagship," and "Retreat to the outer system." Rigel's eyes widen. The Wadi must have been so confused, they wouldn't know who to trust or what to do. Exactly, Zorax nods. Powell's team exploited the Wadi's rigid chain of command, making it seem like their leadership had completely broken down. Some ships began firing on each other, while others simply fled the battlefield. Zarthax shakes his head in disbelief. "I can't believe the humans managed to defeat the Wadi fleet without firing a single shot themselves. It's like they weaponized confusion and doubt." "That's the power of psychological warfare," Zorax says, his voice tinged with a mix of admiration and bitterness. The humans understood that sometimes the most effective weapon is the one that targets the mind, not the body. The holographic display zooms out, showing the once mighty Wadi fleet in complete disarray. Ships drift aimlessly, their crews unsure of what to do or who to follow. "But what about the loyal commanders?" Rigel asks, leaning forward. "The ones who tried to attack the flagship and rescue Admiral Zorgax?" Zorax's lips twist into a grim smile. "Ah yes, those brave, foolish commanders. They thought they could expose Powell's deception and turn the tide of battle, but they underestimated the humans' resolve." The display focuses on a small group of Wadi ships, their weapons primed and ready. They close in on the captured flagship, determined to liberate their admiral and destroy the human invaders. As the rebel ships approached, Zorax continues, Powell realized he had to make a choice. Either he could reveal his bluff and risk the Wadi calling for reinforcements, or he could double down on his deception and hope that the rest of the fleet would remain too confused and divided to mount an effective counterattack. Zarthax's eyes are wide with anticipation. "What did he do, sir? How did the humans get out of that situation?" Zorax leans back in his chair, his cybernetic eye glinting in the dim light of the lecture hall. "Well, cadets, that's a story for another time. But suffice it to say, Powell's gambit paid off. The rebel ships were neutralized, and the rest of the Wadi fleet remained in a state of confusion and disarray long enough for human reinforcements to arrive and secure the system." Rigel and Zarthax exchange glances, their minds reeling with the implications of the tale. The humans, it seemed, were masters not just of technology and warfare, but of the art of deception and manipulation. "And that, cadets," Zorax says, his voice heavy with the weight of history, "is how a single human ship, with nothing but guile and audacity, brought the mighty Wadi Empire to its knees at the Battle of Kepler 22b. It was a turning point in the war, and a lesson in the true nature of human cunning that the galaxy would never forget." As the holographic display flickers, revealing the shattered remnants of the Wadi fleet, Rigel stares in disbelief, his mouth agape. The once proud ships, now reduced to twisted metal and drifting debris, serve as a chilling testament to the humans' psychological warfare. "I can't believe it," Rigel whispers, his voice trembling. "The Wadi commanders, they turned on each other. They destroyed their own fleet." Zorax nods solemnly, his cybernetic eye glinting in the dim light. The humans knew exactly where to strike, cadet. They exploited the Wadi's greatest weakness, their unwavering loyalty to the chain of command. The grizzled commander gestures towards the hologram, where a handful of battered Wadi ships limp away from the carnage. When Powell and his team sowed doubt and confusion among the ranks, the Wadi had no choice but to question the loyalty of their own officers. In their paranoia, they lashed out at each other, accusing their comrades of being human spies or traitors. Zarthax shakes his head, his scales rippling with a mix of awe and horror. It's terrifying to think that the humans could achieve such a decisive victory without even engaging in direct combat. They turned the Wadi's own strength against them. Rigel leans forward, his brow furrowed. "But sir, why would the humans want the Wadi to destroy each other? Wouldn't it have been easier to just engage them in battle? Zorak sighs, his expression somber. You must understand, Cadet, that the humans are not like us. They don't think in terms of brute force or technological superiority. They are masters of manipulation, of turning their enemies' weaknesses against them. The commander paces before the hologram, his metal leg clanking against the floor. By forcing the Wadi to turn on each other, the humans not only weakened their military might, but also shattered their morale. A divided enemy is a vulnerable enemy, and the humans exploited that vulnerability to the fullest. Zarthax's eyes widen as he begins to comprehend the true scope of the humans' victory. They didn't just win a battle, he murmurs. They broke the Wadi's spirit, their unity. They showed the galaxy that even the mightiest empire can crumble from within. Zorax nods gravely, his gaze distant. The Battle of Kepler 22b was a turning point in the war, not because of any great technological advantage or superior firepower, but because the humans understood the power of information, deception, and manipulation. He turns to face the cadets, his expression hardening. Never underestimate the humans, cadets. They may not be the strongest or the most advanced species in the galaxy, but they are cunning, adaptable, and ruthless. They will exploit any weakness, any crack in your armor, and turn it against you. As the lesson draws to a close, Rigel and Zarthax exchange a glance, their faces pale with the weight of this newfound knowledge. The once unshakable confidence in their empire's might now seems fragile, vulnerable to the insidious tactics employed by the humans. Rigel swallows hard, his voice barely above a whisper. I always thought the humans were just another species like us, but now I see why they're feared and respected across the galaxy. Zarthax nods, his own expression grim. We may have the numbers and the technology, but the humans, they have something far more dangerous, the ability to turn us against each other, to make us doubt ourselves and our allies. And that, my friend, is a weapon more potent than any laser or missile. The two cadets exit the lecture hall, their minds heavy with the unsettling realization that, in the face of such a formidable adversary, the Wadi Empire may not be as invincible as they once believed. The true power of the humans, it seems, lies not in their ships or their weapons, but in their unparalleled understanding of the art of war, an art that extends far beyond the battlefield and into the very hearts and minds of their enemies. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.